Man, if y'all haven't noticed, man, there's something strange. There's something strange going on with the youth in America right now, right? It's looking a little scary. It's looking a little sketchy. And I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm wondering if y'all are seeing the same exact thing too, right? Young people are dropping like flies as of late. Every time I check on the news, every time I check, YouTube, every time I open up my phone, it seems like young people are just going through it. Right? It seems like young people in America's youth is just spiraling out of control. And man, it seems like a culture of death that is going on around in America, man. Young people don't value life anymore, right? Young people are jealous more than ever. A lot of them are going through envious situations, right? A lot of them are not able to find real life friends. A lot of them are estranged from family members, man. And it's looking ugly, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the algorithm has been set on max algorithm or whatever the case is and just making them lose control. But something is in the food. Something is in the water. I don't know what it is. And I'm hoping somebody in the comment section can tell me exactly what's going on, because this issue is getting scary, man. This issue is getting scary. And man, it's just been, if you really look at everything that's been going on, if you really look at what's been going on in politics, if you've been looking at what's going on, in the economy, right? It kind of makes sense, right? It kind of makes sense that, the youth is spiraling out of control. It kind of makes sense that they would, in some form or fashion, be praising death. We now stay in a generation, right? We now stay in a generation of drug use, right? Just unsatisfactory habits. We stay in a generation where envy is out of control. We stay in a generation where jealousy is out of control. And a lot of this is to blame on social media, right? A lot of these young people are depressed. A lot of these young people are dealing with mental illnesses, undiagnosed mental illnesses. I think a lot of young people need to check themselves into a therapist's office, really, because they're going through a lot, right? And a lot of the older generation, they're not really telling it how it is, right? There's something diabolical going on. And first things first, right? When you wanna control the world, right? Let me break it down for y'all a little bit. When you want to control the world, right, you first go through the youth. Yep. When you want to control the world, when you want to control the new incoming population, because they could care less about the old people, right? Old people are on the way out. The older generation is on the way out. They could give a flying F about the older people. Look, y'all got 1 foot in and 1 foot out at this point, but they care about the youth. They care about the young blood, right? And as you see all through the media, they're clearly turning the youth against each other, right? Whether we talking about the extreme politics, both left and right, whether we talking about gender, whether we talking about what's the other one, racial divide. They're trying to divide the youth so they can easily control them. And they're able to control the youth by these algorithms. They're able to control the youth by the divisiveness, right? If you don't think this way, then to hell with you. Right? Or if you don't look this way, then to hell with you. Or if you don't believe this, or if you don't believe that, then to hell with you. Right? This is why the youth is spiraling out of control. This is why, the youth is more divided than ever. You would think that, and then don't get me wrong, you have young people fighting this ish, right? You do have young people fighting this ish, but I think I see more of the divide than I see the togetherness. Right? I see more of the divide than I see the togetherness. And this has all been done on purpose. This is a play-bin run, right? This is a whole play-bin run. This is a whole play-bin run. And it's crazy because I just always wonder, how am I able to see all of these things and nobody else can see these plays being run? Nobody else can see these divisive tactics. Nobody can see that the youth is literally running on a culture of death. This is a death culture, right? America in general exercises a death culture, right? We celebrate just barbaric activities, right? We don't uprise when our fellow human being is something happening to them. Our fellow Americans, we don't get up in arms. If anything, we're vouching for something to happen to somebody who may not look like us, somebody who may not have the same religion as us, the same face as us, the same background as us. We actually vouch for those things, right? And it's all a trickle down effect from the leadership class down to the youth, right? And some of y'all, well, what's the solution? What's the solution? What's the solution? Unfortunately, I don't have a solution for you, because here's the thing. You have to have a mass awakening to this shit that's going on, right? You have to have a mass awakening to this shit that's going on. When you have so many people who are in the dark, when you have so many young people who are brainless, right? Don't get me wrong. Can't just blame it on the algorithms, can't just blame it on the elites, can't just blame it on the politicians. You have a lot of people, a lot of young people who are just unconscious. You have a lot of young people who are just, they're not in their right mind. You know how you look at somebody, for those of you who, are mentally aware, you know how you look at somebody and you just look at them and they just don't seem like they're all the way there? That's what I'm talking about. A lot of young people are not all the way there. It's almost as if they're solely operating on an algorithmic feed. You ever witness that? Like, you just see kids just dancing, doing a little TikTok dances, or just having NPC conversations, and you just wonder, like, damn, why they sound like the internet, right? Why do they sound like the internet? Well, to some degree, they are the internet, right? Or the internet has taken hold of them. They are now a part of the algorithm. They're now part of what many would call the matrix. That's what's going on, right? And I don't see a stop sign in the near future. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. And man, our government is in trouble, right? Our politics are in trouble. The government is in trouble, right? Livelihoods is in trouble. The future of America is in trouble, because if the future belongs to the youth, right? If the future belongs to the youth and these ninjas are dropping like flies, whether we talking about ODs, whether we talking about drive-bys, whether we talking about jealousy, friends taking each other out, whether we talking about, just death in general, it just seems like a lot of young people, they're under this curse of death, right? They're under this curse of death, and it's so, disappointing to see. And it's even more disappointing that our so-called leadership class, our so-called leaders, right, are not doing a goddamn thing about it, right? They're not sounding the alarm. They're not trying to figure this thing out. They're just simply putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, right? They're putting a Band-Aid on a stab wound, right? The young people don't know what to do. They don't have enough knowledge. They don't have enough wisdom, right? They don't have enough lived life experience to deal with these situations either. So it's just gonna come down to, man, this ain't gonna be good for society. Not at all. This is not gonna be good for society. And part of me thinks that maybe this is the plan all along. Maybe the plan is to build a culture of death amongst the youth, right? Maybe that is the plan all along, to make sure that they can't think. Maybe this is the plan all along, to make sure that they're unconscious and never can think. Maybe the plan all along is for them not to be able to climb the ranks. Maybe this is the plan all along. You know what? Y'all ever thought about that? Maybe this was the plan all along. Because guess what? When you got a growing population of young people, right? When you have a population of young people that cannot climb the ladder en masse, this is happening, right? You have a population of young people who cannot climb the ladder. You have a population of young people who cannot own homes. You have a population of young people who cannot travel. You have a population of young people who cannot enjoy life. You have a population of young people, right, who are popping pills, right, going out and partying, not worried about the next day, right, living their life like it's golden, living my life like it's golden, living their life like it's the last, right, it is what it is. But when you got a population of young people who are not concerned about the future, they're not concerned about their future because they feel like there is no future, right, that is a recipe for a collapse of society, right? That is a recipe for a collapse in society. And just maybe that is the plan all along. Just maybe they want to collapse society right? And then build a new society full of indentured servants. And I speak on this all the time. Maybe that is the plan, to build a society full of indentured servants, to build a society mostly of the servant class or the enslaved class. Maybe that is the plan all along. Because when you have a bunch of hopeless people, when you have a bunch of people who see no future, right? It's easy to manipulate them, right? It's easy to control them. And that's why you have these, divisive tactics, these plays that are being run. They're being ran on the women, right? You don't need no man, right? F a family. You don't need to have a baby right now, right? Go out there and have fun. Forget family, right? So even the deterioration of the family amongst the youth, right? It's going to start with the women, right? Because they're the ones who bear the children. They're the ones who have to have the children. You're not going to be able to force a woman to have a child. You're not going to be able to force a woman into a relationship or a marriage. You're just not going to, and vice versa as well, right? When they push this poison into the women, and then that feeds into the men. So the men see this, and then they develop their own ideology, aka the dead pill / the red pill, aka the manosphere, the failing manosphere, right? That creates a bunch of losers, right? They don't create a bunch of leaders. They don't create a bunch of entrepreneurs. They don't create a bunch of visionaries. They create a bunch of incel losers that lean into their own ideology, and it feeds into the poison of deterioration of the family. That's what's going on, right? And then that adds into the whole left, because we know more women lean left than men. Many of the men lean right, and so on and so forth. And then it's just a trickle down effect. Then you get a bunch of hopeless people, because nobody is abiding by their God-given nature to reproduce. With men is to produce in society, and for women is to produce also, but just in a different aspect. Not saying that it always has to be children, but the natural order of things is for women to have children, therefore producing in society. Listen, I'm not making the rules. This is just how it's been for eternity, right? So you get the whole political division, then you get the whole man versus woman, and then it creates this whole racial divide. Then you got immigrants versus this, and blacks versus whites, and so on and so forth. It creates all of these different boxes. So nobody is ever able to come together to fight the power that is dividing up the people. Man, I don't see an end in sight, man. I can go on and on and on. I don't see an end in sight, right? Because like I said, it takes a mass awakening, but until then, right, the deterioration of family, that is the culture of death, right? The party lifestyle, popping pills, doing drugs, drinking, and the hating and the envy and all of that, that is a culture of death, right? The divide, the wanting something harmful to happen to your fellow American, fellow human being, that is a culture of death, right? So the young people, it's almost as if the young people inherited the culture of death. Man, even celebrating independence, man, even celebrating 250 years is celebrating the culture of death. Listen, man, I'm just telling you an observation. I'm just giving you my observation, right? It is what it is, right? America celebrates a culture of death, right? And the trickle down effect is seeping into the young population. Well, it first seeped into the older generation. Look how they do, right? They're the ones who many of them vouch for war, right? Many of them didn't ask any question. Many of them were unconscious. Many of them were brainless, rotten brains, NPCs. The original NPCs was the boomers, best believe it. The original NPCs was the boomers, right? The boomers were the originals. They didn't ask any questions. They did exactly what the government told them to do. They believed what the government told them to do. And, at the very least, they were paid off, right? At least some of them, right? At least they were paid with 401ks and pension funds and what else? Just retirement and all of that stuff. At least they were paid off. The rest of the generations after that, man, ask them. They can't vouch for it, right? They can't vouch for it. Older millennials tried to go the same route as boomers. Gen X tried as well, and then many of them didn't end up in the predicament that most boomers ended up in, right? And are still in. So man, I don't know what needs to be done. I don't know what can be done. I'm just calling out what I see. There is a massive culture of death, amongst our young people. Young people are dropping like flies. They have empty brains. They have NPC brains, right? They're not asking any questions for the most part. They just going through life just simple-minded, right? And then they got to deal with the whole loneliness epidemic. They have no friends, no real friends at that, right? They're not building anything, not striving for anything. But then on top of that, a lot of the hopelessness is attributed to not being able to own homes, not being able to exercise the American dream, not being able to produce families. So, families give you something to live for, right? I don't care what anybody say, right? For a man, for a woman, families give you a purpose. Families give you something to live for. But then when you have a massive amount of young people who are, anti-family, against family, against marriage, then listen, this is the culture that you create. So listen, man, the after pill is the ideology, the escape blueprint is the framework, and PFP life is how you should live, and purpose, and freedom, and empower. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. Am I tripping? Is my observation on point? Are y'all seeing the same exact thing that I'm seeing? This whole culture of death amongst the youth and amongst the population in general? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Make sure you also come over to the Patreon. Make sure you also join the inner circle. I'm about to open it up for free. I'm opening up the whole inner circle for free, right? I will be releasing the link soon, so I will be allowing more people to join the inner circle, and then I will have other, chapters within the inner circle that will be paid. So just stay tuned for that. And we will be having our first networking event in Cartagena, Colombia at the end of the year, going into the new year. So if you want to join that, come and join the inner circle so you can get more information on that. And I will see you guys in the next video, and I will see you guys in the Patreon. Peace.